Good morning, everybody, and good morning. Everyone's awake, great. And welcome to this, the 9th breakfast briefing of 2017, if you can believe that. And well done to you all for getting out of bed on a terribly cold and dreary morning. It feels very much like winter, which hopefully will get you in the mind frame for our topic today. But before I introduce our speaker, Brian, a couple of logistical things from me. First of all, as usual, we love to hear your feedback. So if you do have any on your social media platform of choice, please tag us or hashtag GoogleBB. The second thing is around content. So we have 2 sessions left now until the end of this year. And we'd really love to hear from you on what you want to hear more of, what you want, if there's a session that you want to have rerun, or if there's something that you really feel is missing that you really want to hear from us. So as always, we'll send the feedback form out after this session, but I'm really, really interested to hear from you on what you would like to hear from us. We only have 2 sessions left, and we're really happy to make them as useful as possible for all of you. And the very last thing logistically is that there's an event on outside straight afterwards. So for those of you who have been here before, you'll know we usually have nice tea and coffee to warm you up before you head into work. That's not happening today. If you do want to mingle and network, we have space inside, or else you'll be ushered straight out to the right after the session. Okay, so we're going to talk about Christmas today. Does anyone know how many days it is to Christmas? 80 days. I also looked that up this morning. Well done. You can use Google. That's good. Maybe you have a countdown calendar. Yes, it's 80 days to Christmas, if you can believe that. And we really want you guys to start thinking about it now. And actually, we've run events here in Google in this exact room from August of this year to set our retailers up for Christmas. And we're delighted to have a complete retail expert with us here today, Brian Brady. Brian joined Google about 8 or so years ago and worked in the retail space for about 5 years here. He then left and he got experience on both the client and the media supplier side elsewhere. And he rejoined us again working on retail about 6 weeks ago. So he's very new, but we nabbed him and we got him to agree to speak here today. So he's going to tell us about really smart strategies about how we can set up properly for Christmas and beyond. So with that, please welcome Brian to the stage.
Thank you, Ruth. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for making it so early on a Friday morning and listening to my Cork accent. So I'll try and keep it very slow for those that can follow. As Ruth said, I'm just recently rejoined, and this is all still pretty new to me to be back here, but it's a pleasure to be able to share with you some thoughts this morning on how to win the moments that matter for this Christmas season and beyond into 2018. Now, I'd like to start with a personal story. So I got married recently this year to my wife, Cara, and we did this down in my native Cork. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of planning that goes into this. About a year out, you start planning, ordering the food, the venue, the wine, her dress, my last-minute suit, and you start thinking, we've got everything covered. But you realize that you can't plan and predict everything. The guests will come, but what about the weather? So in that moment of need, I turned to my phone and started looking for what is the weather going to be like. And there's an old wives' tale that they tell you that a wet ring stays on tighter, but I was still really praying for this good day to come, as was my mother and my mother-in-law, checking if their fascinators would hold in the rain. So planning and predicting for things is important, but I think the moral of the story is that you can try and plan for everything, but there's some things you can't predict. And I think this is the essence of retail. For retailers, it's the unpredictability of your shoppers. It's what factors outside of your control will impact their shopping behavior. Is it a warm October? How will your sales stock shift? Will you have to discount early? And how will your competitors react and hold their nerve as you approach Black Friday and the peak shopping weeks to come? So with that, it's important to understand how to predict those customers. And if you can't, how do you create effective marketing campaign strategies to engage them in the moments that matter, especially when each moment is so unique and personal to each individual? So let's understand some of the current trends. And no surprise, I'm going to start with mobile. Every year has been the year of mobile for the last 10 years or so that I've been hearing this. But it's never been more true than now. If you're like me and you keep your mobile phone next to your pillow, then there really is only 2 states of being in the world. You're either asleep or you're online. And in Ireland, we now have over 86% smartphone penetration, which is even greater than the UK, where most of my customers are currently based. And what we're seeing from a retail perspective here in Google is that over 50% of all retail-related queries are now coming from a mobile device. And in certain categories, such as accessories, apparel, and clothing, this is well over 60%. So the implications for your business is enormous, and to be able to capture this. Tim Berners-Lee, who's one of the founders of the internet, actually refers to those who've grown up in the internet age, not as Generation X or Generation Y, but Generation WWW. Those who have either know what they want, where they want, and when they want it. And they're demanding. But what are they doing with this access to information? Well, the good news for everyone in this room is they're shopping. 47% of people use their mobile device to access shopping activities online, which is the highest piece of activity that we're seeing from a mobile device in Ireland, outpacing email, news, and searching for weather. We're also seeing about 12% of all retail sales now coming from online. And that number is growing faster than physical retail stores. However, the true impact of online shopping is far greater than that 12% number would suggest. In fact, 60% of people are now researching online before making purchases in store. And you have to factor this into your marketing campaigns. One of our US companies, Target, actually referred to the mobile device as a conveyor belt that ushers people into their stores. But to help bring this to life, I'll use a bit more of US-centric data to help illustrate some points. Between 2010 and 2014, US physical retail stores experienced some extremely worrying trends. Specifically, they saw the 55% decline in footfall to their stores. Now, that's a pretty terrifying stat if you take it in isolation and on its own. At the same time, however, online sales were increasing exponentially. But crucially, there was a 2x increase in the value of in-store visits during that time period as well. So what they were losing in footfall, they were making up in greater average order value. And this was really demonstrating the power that more qualified research patterns online was having in in-store visits. Now, that's one trend. There's one or more that I'd like to touch on. And that's something that most of you might be familiar with, some of you maybe even guilty of. The rise of the changing room selfie. If you talk to any of your changing room attendants in your stores, they'll tell you they're familiar with two things. One, the of hearing a phone in the changing room. The second, that sudden flash of light from under the curtain. Now, what are consumers doing besides taking photos of, does my bum look big in this? Or do my friends recommend I buy it? Well, 75% of consumers are now using their phone in-store as a shopping companion. They're going online, they're searching for prices, searching for comparisons, reviews, and checking, is there a better deal elsewhere? If you own a physical retail store, or as an agency support physical retail stores indeed, you have to bear in mind the fact that you're being disintermediated by your own consumers as they're in-store. So it's not enough to be present and supporting them in their in-store experience. You need to start thinking of how you actually be present and show up for them when they're searching online. And it's important to bear in mind, because in those moments that matter, and when we need something, we're turning to search. A recent survey showed that 87% of us turn to search in those moments of need. So when we're looking to buy something, find something, go somewhere, or review something, we're turning to search, and we're twice as likely to use this than any other source of information. So what can we do with these trends and information? Well, this morning I'd like to focus on just 3 small areas to help you get set up for the Christmas period and 2018 ahead. And that's showing up in the moments that matter, wising up to using data, and speeding up to provide a better experience and capture demand. So let's start with showing up. Being there for your customers in the moments that matter, irrespective of what channel that is crucially important. There's such a myriad of ways to interact with customers and various touch points online. And at Google, we've tried to solve for all of these, whether it be via search when they want to know something, on maps where they want to find something, back to search if they want to buy, or on YouTube when they want to engage with content. It's imperative to be found. There's 3 questions you need to start taking to your internal teams. The first is understanding what are the moments that matter for your customers. Not just the buying moments, but the true moments that matter in the buying cycle. The second is, do you understand how to solve your customers' problems? Again, throughout the whole cycle. And the third, and most crucially important, who is currently solving those problems for your customers now? Is it another retailer, a direct competitor, or a publisher or information site that they're turning to? And how can you be part of that conversation? Now, when it comes to search, it's one of the most crucial areas that you need to be involved in, of course, from a retail perspective. So let me try and bring this to life. I mentioned earlier this year that I got married. That wasn't the only big life event. We soon, as a married couple, went on to that other big discussion you have, which is not if or when for kids, but that other massive question: are you a dog or a cat person? And you probably think we should have had that conversation a long time ago, before we got married, but that's the fool and folly of it. Now, I've been a dog person my entire life. Had them as a kid, loved them, so I immediately set about in earnest to search for various breeds, kennels, toys, chewy dog toys, cute puppy photos to win over my wife's heart. So, meet Chica, the cutest non-dog you'll ever meet. Now, clearly I lost the dog versus cat argument. I'm told I should expect a lot of this in life. But it didn't end there. Not only did I lose this argument, in a classic case of upselling, we ended up with 2 kittens instead of 1. Meet Sadie, Mishka's baby sister. So as you can imagine, besides the cuteness, I was utterly terrified in these moments. And in my moment of need, turned to my phone and search to help solve for some inevitable problems that I knew were about to come, such as, how the hell do I cat-proof my house in a matter of days? So I turned to search. Now, I don't mind hard work, manual labor, a labor of love, but I didn't really want to get my hands dirty in this case, if you know what I mean. So my wife recommended the best piece of tech you've probably never heard of, the cat litter robot. Now, if you notice the price tag, she also neglected to tell me how much these things cost. But I started using search to find the solutions that mattered for us. And this is where shopping really became a fore, not just as a Googler, but as a consumer as well. Google Shopping launched in Ireland earlier this year, and the results have been staggering for both our end customers and consumers alike. What it allows you to do is place front and foremost on a digital shelf your products, the price and image, and the results have been astounding. We've seen a 26% increase in clicks in the last 3 months alone. And for some retail categories, we're seeing actually over a quarter of all clicks now coming from this platform. For our UK customers, where shopping has been launched a little longer, we're seeing actually over 50% of all queries and clicks now coming from the shopping platform. And it's a win-win. Customers love it for the use it provides, and consumers and customers and clients love it because it's driving more qualified clicks and conversions. But that's on the shopping front. It's important as a retailer and as an agency to consider the whole experience of the search results page, not just shopping on its own. Here are some great examples of combining the shopping product and carousel with the search page and text ads to give a holistic, full digital shelf. And Argos use this to really great effect. Here you have an example of where they're showing their various 3 products in the shopping carousel, in this instance Star Wars and Lego, but they're complementing showing the price and the image with a text ad beneath, which is showcasing some unique selling points and promotional activity. And what this is giving them is a massive real estate on the search results page, providing unique information across the board for their customers, providing information and driving sales. So what should you be thinking of as a retailer to capitalize on this? Well, ahead of the Christmas peak, you need to be thinking of 3 things. The first is, first of all, if you don't have a feed, create one. Make sure you have good feed hygiene, that you're managing things in real time and in stock, and syncing it with your AdWords campaigns to ensure that they're set up for Christmas. The second is start to thinking of your full coverage. It's no point keeping your best stock hidden in the back room. You need to have full 100% inventory coverage to be there for the moments that matter for all of your customers when they're searching, even for those niche products. And the last, and possibly most crucial, we know for retailers that the majority of you will probably make this year's majority profits in just a short period of window of time. So you need to think of what are the products that are going to drive the volume of sales or volume of revenue or margin for your business. Once you understand this, it's time to prioritize those in the shopping window. ensuring that you have full click audience market share to drive the increased sales that you need this Christmas season. So that's on the search side, but there's a whole wide range of consideration cycles that also take place. What about social and what about YouTube? Does anyone here know who Zoella is? Yeah? So she's a London-based fashion influencer with over 12 million subscribers on YouTube. She has an ongoing relationship with ASOS and WH Smith. And year on year, we're seeing about a 36% increase on searches for fashion-related queries on YouTube alone. So if you couple this with over 1.5 billion viewers and an hour watch time a day, it's a vast platform to be able to engage consumers before they're ready to buy and influence them along that journey. So that's the piece of showing up and being relevant in the moments that matter. The next, though, is wising up to using the power of data. Since 2010, we've seen about a 7-fold increase in the volume of data that's produced on a daily basis. And while that can be scary, all it means is a power of wealth of knowledge of information as marketers that we can use to create more useful and intuitive ad experiences for consumers online. Now, data can come in probably 3 main forms. The first is your CRM data. This can live in offline loyalty campaigns, or if you're quite sophisticated, one of our retailers in the UK has, from their tills, they log about tens of thousands of transactions every second, and all of that feeds into a CRM system. Now, you also have your first-party data. That's the data that exists on your website. It's the data that tells you buying behavior, what products people look at, what they buy, what they don't buy. And then lastly, there's a third-party data which Google can offer. We're able to take your CRM data and your first-party data and use machine learning to model off of this to help you understand what your current customers look like and how can we help you find customers that look and act like those customers to try and expand your current consumer base. But rather than just hear from me, it's best to probably hear directly from a customer. So I'd like to play a video now from Matalan, who are in the UK, would have been traditionally seen as an old-school retailer. But they've recently undergone a massive transition to including data to be a data-driven marketing team. So I'm going to show Andy now talking through how they've transformed their business.
Today's customer moves fluidly across what we call channels. They'll research on the website and buy in store, or they'll research in store and buy online. They care about convenience. At Matalan, we sell clothing, homewares, underwear, furniture, shoes, items for your kitchen and items for your bathroom. Our strength has always been the connection with the customer, but we faced a fundamental challenge. Our teams, our data, our goals, but we were marketed. Everything sat in channels. How could we serve this increasingly omnichannel customer and remain relevant as a retailer when our marketing wasn't aligned with how today's customer really behaves? Say you're buying a school uniform for your kids. You do a bit of research online, you check the price, you check the stock, you check the quality. But then you might want to go to the store to buy it, see it for yourself and check the fit. Google's technology allowed us to understand with high confidence the full omnichannel journey for our customers. How many people clicked on an advert, visited our store, and then bought a product. For example, bidding on luggage online wasn't giving us the best e-commerce returns. But when we factored in store sales, it was one of our highest returning lines. With the data that Google provided us with, we saw that mobile was the single biggest driver of footfall and sales in our stores. Reorganising a 30-year-old business in a mobile age was never going to be easy. Our marketing was very traditional, but having powerful data like Google store visits alongside our existing store sales data made the case of building more local tactics into our online strategy. So here in Knaresborough, we trialled bidding more for customers that were in close proximity to the store and found that they were much more likely to visit after clicking on an ad. So you might see an ad here, but you wouldn't see an ad here. Having the right KPIs and metrics in place means we can run these experiments and really understand what difference it makes to our bottom line. I think any organisational change was always going to be a big job. But with these insights and attributing revenue, we'll be able to drive a much better customer experience, and that will be something that really drives the growth for our business.
So I think that's a great example from the UK of, as I said, a very traditional retailer embracing change, embracing data to help inform how they leverage online advertising to drive in-store sales. Now, in Ireland, we don't yet have store visits reporting available, but I do want to help you with some benchmarks internationally that will help you gauge how you can use this for your own marketing campaigns. Bidding by distance is available, but if you think of global trends, we've typically seen that for every one mobile sale that is driven from marketing activity, globally we've seen on average about 4 in-store visits. So if you take that math and then look at your own store, you think of your number of visits per week, your average visit transaction conversion rate, and average order value, you can start to make some rough assumptions on the impact that mobile is having on your business. It's a starting point that will hopefully help you make the most of this holiday season. So that's showing up, it's wising up, but what about speeding up to provide a better experience? Now that was pretty uncomfortable. Not the prettiest slide, and hopefully I still have your attention. But if that was the real experience online, 50% of you would have abandoned that. In fact, 75% of the top websites still take up to 10 seconds to load on a mobile device. And in this period of time, it's simply unacceptable for a modern e-commerce business to accept that level of latency. I'm not sure about you, but that really is painful. Now, why is it important? Well, page speed equals money, pure and simple. A recent study by Mobile Marketer showed that even a 1-second delay in load time could have an impact of 7% reduction in conversions, which is a staggering number. Now, if you do some of the impressive maths that I did and have self-prepared, you could have €100,000 sales from a retailer equate to €2.5 million in annual lost revenue if you accept that 1% and 1-second delay. So you need to start prioritizing mobile speed on your site to capture demand as we move to a mobile-first world. But who's doing this well and why? Well, it should come as no surprise that Amazon are really leading the space here. Jeff Bezos, the CEO, has really laid down the gauntlet. He's said the acceptable standard for latency is 1 second, flat. Anything else is substandard. And it's not hard to see why they're succeeding. They're placing, front and foremost, the transition between online e-commerce and mobile at the forefront of everything they do. And it's not just speed. They're trying to optimize the whole experience as well. For those of us who use Amazon, it's all about the experience of transitioning from desktop to mobile, having access to your wish list, your shopping cart, your one-click purchase. So in Amazon's words, you can go from, I want to buy that, to I just bought that in 30 seconds or less. And speed then does become an issue. The data that Amazon have released suggests that for every 100 milliseconds that they shave off their load time of their site, they increase their revenues by 1%. Think of the scale of Amazon and the impact that's having on their revenues, and it becomes a staggering number. So what can you do from an Irish perspective managing your own sites to get near to those numbers? Well, we're trying to help in a few ways. The first is a new tool we've released, Test Your Site. Some of this you won't be able to implement by 2017 Christmas, but you should absolutely make it a priority for your 2018 plans. It allows you to test the speed of your mobile site and its load time, and helps give you practical fixed recommendations. Some of them might be quite small, such as reducing file sizes. Others might take a bit longer. But it's crucial that you start prioritizing this now into your tech plans for next year. But what should you focus on? There's a lot of numbers. In fact, the 5 above here are probably the most crucial. And you're probably asking, which one should I focus on? And the answer is, in short, all. But if we had to recommend just one, it would be speed index. And speed index is crucial for one key reason. It's the average time at which a page loads and that is visible for a user. So it's the content that appears above the fold on your mobile phone. And it's this index speed that is crucial for understanding your bounce rate, as it's the #1 driver for people abandoning your site. If you can solve for page speed index and ensure that it's loading fast enough for people as it loads on their site, they'll stick around longer, bounce less, and convert more. But it's not just about speed, it's also about personalization. There's been recent studies that have said that up to 70% of us as shoppers want a more intuitive, personalized experience. And the very brand who are part of Littlewoods Group have really taken this to heart. In fact, they've developed staggeringly over 1 million unique pages customized for each shopper, showing unique products, unique ads on various landing pages. And for Very and Littlewoods, this is driving upwards of 60% of all their sales now coming from a mobile device. So we've talked about showing up, wising up, and speeding up, and a lot of trends. But it would be remiss of me not to talk about some of the challenging backdrops that we're facing. Across the water, there's obviously some worrying trends happening and uncertain times for businesses. We've actually started monitoring some macroeconomic indicators and using search as a consumer barometer of intent and sentiment for what's happening in the market. And we're now tracking what we call, I suppose, quite morose, the worry index, which is basically terms related to Brexit, financial planning, inflation, and unemployment. And we've seen a 10% increase in this since the time before Brexit was announced. Now, this, coupled with a weak pound and a strong euro and dollar against this, is meaning it's more attractive than ever for consumers to buy from British producers. So as we enter into the Christmas period domestically, not only do you have to convince Irish shoppers to shop local, you also have to worry about them shopping abroad and from the UK. Now, obviously, we want to help you to encourage our Irish customers to buy local, but there's one way you can help by leveling the playing field, which is going exporting and going international. We've just recently announced a new tool that will help you to do this, which is the Global Market Finder. And this will help you for free in 3 easy ways to identify new markets to start targeting. First, it'll help you to identify the markets where there's a high search volume and low competition that might be ripe for your business based on the metrics that matter to you. Next, it'll help you understand the market conditions, such as how are payments made and transactions occurring in those markets, and what are the logistical concerns of shipping to those markets that you need to be aware of before you enter them. And lastly, it'll tell you a bit about the profile of the audiences there. Who are they? What the smartphone penetration is like? And what are the searches that they're conducting in the moments that matter that you need to be there for an international audience? So that's pretty much everything. Showing up, wising up, and speeding up for 2018. Hopefully this has been helpful. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you. I apologize for my throwing in advance, but if anyone wants to pass the mic around, I'm happy to take any questions. Perfect.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning. My name is Nicole, and I work at SquareDot. It's a digital marketing agency. And I would like to know, how can I prove to my clients that the sales made direct in the store came from the internet?
Sure.
Just compare the results from the last year, the same periods. How can I prove to them?
Right. As I said, perfect. It's a little difficult, as I said, because we haven't launched site visits reporting in Ireland just yet. So there is a bit of back of the envelope math that you need to start placing. First of all, understanding what was your last year's mobile investment and what was your total mobile online sales and your total in-store sales. So that gives you a benchmark, kind of a waterline of what was last year's revenue. Next is understanding what is the trend year on year in terms of your mobile investment. Have you increased it? What is the total sales online and your total year-on-year sales in store? And then hopefully, if you have in-store sales data, you should also be tracking in-store visits. So do you actually know what the average footfall is in store? Because there are going to be outside indicators. And as I said, at that point, you really are just trying to make some assumptions based on your level of investment and then determining what the uplift you're starting to see. It is a little rough, but it should be directional. And other things that you should start considering, though, that is possible is bidding by distance. To the point that Andy made in the video, start kind of hyper-targeting local around some certain key stores and maybe excluding areas further out, which allows you to do some more A/B testing to determine the uplift.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. If you just pass the mic just behind you, we'll come back then as well.
I just wanted to ask, just when you were talking about YouTube there and say, showing up and such.
Sure.
Do you think it is fair to say that it's gotten to the point that YouTube has become as educational as it is recreational? Not just in terms of usage, because it was said that the internet has killed television, but I would think that it's relevant to show up in the sense that, say, one of the most listened to podcasts in the world, the Joe Rogan Experience, like just from advertisement alone, not from monetization on YouTube.
Yep.
Just from advertisement alone, he makes, I think it's 75 grand per episode.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just as I actually said, do you think that like that's an example of showing up, and it's an example of effective YouTube advertisement and such? Because like a lot more people, even like the next generation, are instead of watching the news, they're listening to podcasts and such. So.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Absolutely, I think what I would agree with there is considering shopping, the experience as much more than that piece of just looking to buy. It's engaging with customers before they buy it, and not even in a direct kind of response component of targeting even fashion bloggers and thinking we need to be hyper targeted in that sense. That's one application, but it's also thinking of building a profile, as I mentioned, of your audience and your actual shoppers. Who are they? What do they look like? And understanding how do we influence them before they're even ready to buy or before they even know what they want to buy, which is part of that whole kind of educational component of building what we call audience targeting. I think since coming back to Google, the one word I want to kind of eradicate is this concept of display targeting. I mean, we're probably one of the few people that talk about that. It's all about audiences. Who is your audience? How do you reach them? And how do you make your brand relevant to them? And that should be across channels. It's across search, it's across YouTube, it's across various networks and channels and websites online. And it's about reaching them to impact them with a message. Like the Joe Rogan podcast, which I watched myself, is hugely impactful because it reaches a core audience. So if brands that I'm engaged with or should be engaged with were to reach me there, that's a highly impactful platform. And I'm not sure about you, but my reference earlier about my cats, I started immediately looking on how to clean cats, pretty sad, cut their nails, brush their hair. Like I'm literally watching videos on how to do this. If brands were to engage me in that platform, that's a huge missed opportunity if they're not.
Good morning. Great presentation. Patrick Crawford here. With the speed up, I agree with all your points on speed and multi-channel. How do you see all this balancing now with mobile rendered websites versus mobile apps?
Sure. Very good question. What I didn't touch on, I suppose, is the kind of happy medium in between. So you have, I suppose, the combination of apps, native apps and mobile sites that's powering the best of both worlds. I think the danger for brands and agencies is that do I build an app kind of dilemma. For me, there's too many problems with apps. First of all, there's too much fragmentation from devices and operating systems. So if you go down the path of building an app, you have to optimize for iOS, Android, Windows Phone. Then you have to think of the operating systems that they're running. Are people updating them? And will your app be configured to run optimally across all of them? Once you start doing that, and then start thinking of, well, if I'm a shopper, how do I make sure that my feed is running and my shopping products are available on all those apps? That becomes a logistical nightmare. And the cost of maintenance of that is just far too great. The mobile website and the kind of in-between reaching native apps is at a greater place than it's ever been. You can provide a similar experience to native apps in mobile generated websites, which essentially allows you to provide a native feel of apps, which for a consumer actually allows for lower usage of data points. So their data usage goes down, the pages load faster, and you get a similar experience. So we're much more kind of leaning towards build on a mobile site, which is usable for everyone, and is not and is more agnostic than focusing on an app that you have to kind of engineer for each individual platform.
And just to add to the question, what about location-specific services, which a mobile website can it deliver the same level of service to somebody as an app could?
So some, and this is where I'm not absolutely technical, but there's some of the new generations of mobile websites will allow you to pull in some location-based features. There's some that's a little further down the line. So absolutely, if it's crucial, if you're a local-based offering. So we've talked about Costa Coffee, for example. We have case studies on where for them location is everything. So apps will make sense. So it is going to be very much, I think, based on your unique case. If you're a local-based advertiser, and that's an element that's crucial for you. If you are an omni-channel retailer, and you're specifically thinking, we have a broad reach online and some niche stores, that's where I think if you don't have a wide network either globally or local nationally, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Thanks very much. Great answers.
Thanks. Sorry, just over to your left.
It's just in the context of speed up. If you're just starting out in the whole e-commerce thing, getting a fast website that's mobile compatible and whatever laptop compatible, would you use a platform, one of these Wix, Squarespace, etc., or what is the best way if you're just starting out to make sure you're Google compatible, you're everything compatible, and it's the most, what would you say, customizable?
Sure, yeah. If you're absolutely starting out, a platform like Wix or kind of sites that are kind of allow you to engender your websites based on templates are absolutely perfect, because most of them are actually generating websites delivered across platforms. So I would have no problem, because I've used Wix personally, in recommending them. Again, that's not a Google recommendation, it's a personal recommendation. But if you're starting out, it's a good start. Obviously, you're working off templates though. So as you get more sophisticated, you will be certainly limited. And this is what I was talking to this gentleman about progressive web apps. When you get to a progressive web app stage that allows you to produce the look and feel of a native app, that's where it gets more sophisticated. But most of those platforms, if you want to get the native app feel, won't provide a progressive web app feel. That's where you need in-house customization.
Anyone else?
Any other questions? The throws are going to get a little harder.
Gosh, I'll have to pass it. You throw it back there again.
Hands up. Top left.
All right. Okay. Stand up and do it.
We're going to give bonus points for this. Might need to do a bit of a relay.
Where's it going?
Super, thank you.
Is there a microphone? Hi, Brian. Great talk. Really enjoyed it. Thanks a million. Yeah, just another question on speed. So, I believe you said speed index is the single most important field, field.
Yep.
So, and then you also said that in an ideal world, you would have your site load in under 1 second. So, should we be aiming for the speed index to come in under 1 second? Is that the goal?
Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about, because it basically allows you to have the rest of your page below the fold load a little slower. Okay. But it's that piece of having above the fold, so what loads first and foremost for your customers, loading first, which basically allows the rest of your page time to catch up.
Yeah.
But it's that crucial piece of page index and speed index loading first. What we try and say is, and recommend, is avoid what we call the big reveal, this staggering loading of like what's going to happen when this page finally loads. So focusing on speed index allows you to basically stick with that big reveal if you can optimize to a faster speed, but it's all happening below the fold.
Okay. Is that referred to as asynchronous loading? Is that what that is, or something different?
Asynchronous loading is slightly different. So asynchronous loading actually normally refers to if you have multiple different tags on your site. So this is where you might have various JavaScript tags taking place, and they're all loading independently of each other. So it definitely, asynchronous loading certainly helps page speed and load time, and that's something you should be implementing on your websites, but it's separately removed from speed index.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Brian. Cheers.
Sorry, back to the middle. Some of you, just watch your heads coming from the back.
Ready?
Oh.
Hi.
Morning.
Great presentation. You seem to be edging towards mobile-only sites as opposed to mobile-optimized sites. And bearing in mind that although the phone has been used 86% for search, the actual purchase has been made on a desktop. So if it's been a mobile-only site, the maintenance on a mobile-only site plus a mobile-optimized site is twice the work and twice all the hassle that goes with it. So while you're pushing for speed loads, for the actual transaction to go through, it has to make sense then on a desktop.
You're absolutely right, and apologies if it came across that way. So there's two ways of looking at it. Progressive web apps is something we definitely recommend on mobile, but in the interim period is actually responsive sites. So that's, again, there's an upfront technical and revenue investment from a commercial side in this. So responsive websites are built to optimize across desktop and mobile, so you're essentially doing the best of both worlds, but it does require more investment. We've typically, I think a few years ago, we were absolutely kind of going down the route of get a mobile site, get an M site. It's definitely moved away from that to your exact point. It's becoming too costly to maintain, and it goes against my exact point earlier on apps. It's the exact same contradictory issue. So we would definitely recommend either progressive web apps for your mobile site in terms of responsive design. Yeah, good point though. Sorry, come back to you 2 seconds.
In terms of shopping,
Yep.
what's the best way to manage a massive product feed for like feed hygiene or whatever?
Good question. If I had Anton on my team who was here earlier, I would get him to answer this. I won't recommend any specific names, but there are shopping feed companies that have actually sprung up as a whole cottage industry off the back of this to help customers and clients actually manage their feeds. There are a number, I can catch up with you afterwards if you actually want some kind of names.
Yeah.
But specifically, there are actually feed management systems that will do all of this heavy lifting for you, that will manage kind of price, inventory, GTIN, which is kind of the tracking numbers for them. So as you get into the thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of products, at certain points you do need probably a feed management company.
Cool. Thank you.
And sorry, just below here.
Christian from akaruby.com. Back to the speed for 1 second.
Yeah.
I just ran the test my site stuff with a little heart attack attached. And then after getting over the initial kind of
shock
pain,
Sorry.
I tested as a comparison eBay, and then as a last your case study of Amazon, and they were all poor.
Really?
So as in eBay loaded a lot worse than ours, and Amazon got a poor result. 6 seconds.
6 seconds.
I'm not sure if Robin's here. Maybe this is our Wi-Fi in here, because I've tested Amazon before, and theirs is incredibly swift.
Well, I just tried it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would probably, if you want to make, I think if
Maybe
you want to feel better, then we should probably go with that.
conservatively from the.
Yeah, I said so from the case study from Amazon perspective, like Jeff Bezos, they're not saying they have achieved 1 per second. They're definitely saying that that's the latency goal. Yeah. They're certainly, I think the last time I checked them, they were around the 3 second mark, 2.5 second mark. Yeah, again, that was on 4G.
That just showed 6 seconds.
Yeah, so they've definitely improved on that. So might be, is that you on Wi-Fi or 4G?
I tried both. I tried the mobile data and the Wi-Fi, just to be sure.
To be sure.
But I tried it with the Google Test My Site stuff. No? So that shouldn't matter, actually.
It shouldn't matter. No. So you might have found a kink.
Okay.
Any other questions? Or are people eager to get back to the day job for the rest of the weekend? Coffee. Okay, I think we'll leave it there then. Thank you so much for your attention, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Okay, thank you.